Okay, so imagine this. You're asleep in bed, husband beside you, everything seems totally normal, safe, secure, sound asleep. Then bam, jolted awake by gunshots. I mean, that's got to be just terrifying. And for Corey Shaughnessy, that was just the beginning of a total nightmare. This deep dive, we're looking into the Shaughnessy family murders, really shook up investigators, left the whole community just reeling.
This case, it's so interesting because of, well, the twist, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
The person behind this whole horrific thing, it was the victim's son, Nick Shaughnessy.
We've got all this stuff, court testimonies, police interviews, firsthand accounts, and it just paints a really chilling picture. Family torn apart by violence and betrayal. And fair warning, this one's going to get kind of dark. We're going to be looking at how this affected everyone involved.
Yeah, it's important to kind of set the scene, right? The Shaughnessy's, they were successful, thriving jewelry business, beautiful home. They had it all. It's
Yeah.
what makes this whole thing so strange.
Yeah. So let's go back to the start. The crime scene. I mean, it was just pure chaos. Ted Shaughnessy, the father, he was murdered. One of their Rottweilers, dead too. Bullet casings everywhere from multiple weapons.
You can imagine, right, the initial shock. Family's wealthy, so robbery seemed like the obvious thing. But then investigators found something that totally flipped the script. Nothing was actually missing.
Hold on. So you're saying there were valuables just like lying around?
Exactly. Expensive jewelry, electronics, all untouched. That's a big old red flag, you know? Changed the whole focus, went from random to deliberate, something way more sinister.
And that's when suspicion fell on the son, Nick, and his girlfriend, Jackie.
Hmm.
They didn't live at home, but they rushed to Austin right after.
Trying to put myself in Corey's shoes, it's just unimaginable. Your husband's dead, your son's a suspect. There's just no way to even process that.
Yeah, and that's where things get even darker. The detectives, Paul Scotto and James Moore, they started digging into Nick and Jackie. Found some pretty unsettling stuff, especially about the alarm system. The alarm system, what about it?
So usually they only armed it when they were away, right? But Nick, he had access through an app on his phone. Seems like a small thing, but, it started to raise some eyebrows.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's one thing for a family member to be a suspect, but when you start finding these little things that just don't add up.
Right. And as they went deeper, these inconsistencies and suspicious details, they just piled up. Those detectives, they were thorough. Text messages, financials, anything that could shed light on Nick and Jackie.
Just good old-fashioned detective work, right?
Yeah.
Following every lead, no matter how small.
Absolutely. And in this case, it was a tiny detail that blew the whole thing wide open. Detective Moore, he was watching hours of security footage from Nick and Jackie's porch 2 days before the murder. And there, in the middle of all this normal, everyday stuff, he saw something, changed everything.
Okay, what was it? What did he see?
A man wearing a green T-shirt.
A green T-shirt, that's
What?
it.
Well, not just any green T-shirt. This one had Anderson Window Company printed on it. Seemed random, but Moore, he had a feeling. Like this T-shirt, it was the key to the whole thing.
So did they, track down every Anderson Window employee in the state or something?
They started by driving all over, following any lead about this T-shirt. And, crazy enough, they found someone who knew the guy. Worked at Anderson Window for a few days, 4 years prior. And get this, they still remembered his name.
Wow. Talk about a lucky break. It's amazing how a little thing, a green T-shirt, can unravel a whole murder plot.
It really shows you how important it is to be persistent, Pay attention to the details, especially in these complicated investigations. This could have gone cold, easy, if Moore hadn't trusted his gut about that shirt. So they got the name of this guy in the video. Now they got to figure out how he connects to Nick and Jackie.
This is where it gets really interesting, right? You got this seemingly random guy, got to figure out how he fits into this whole family drama.
Exactly. And remember, at this point, they still don't have a clear motive. Why would Nick, this young guy who seemingly had everything, want his own father dead?
Let's dig into that. Let's talk about Nick. On the surface, he had it pretty good, right? Parents took care of him, even helped him start a day trading business. So what could possibly drive someone like that to orchestrate a murder? And to murder their own father, no less.
Yeah, it's baffling, isn't it? That's the question that kept coming up, with everyone working the case. No clear motive, nothing obvious. No abuse, no big family fights, no money problems. Seemed like Nick got along fine with his parents.
So if it wasn't about money or revenge or any of that, what was it about? What could push someone to do something so unthinkable?
Well, in interviews, Nick, he was kind of vague, contradictory, admitted he lacked motivation, just coasting through life. Relied heavily on his parents' money, actually. Even said he felt inadequate compared to his dad.
Inadequate, huh? So maybe like a twisted way of stepping out of his father's shadow.
Yeah, some experts think that kind of thing plays a role in cases like this. Entitlement, maybe, or a messed up view of reality. Maybe Nick felt he deserved more than his parents were giving him, or saw this as a way to, like, finally take control, even if it meant violence.
That's a scary thought, man. To be that detached, that lack of empathy, to plan and carry out killing your own father. What about Jackie, though? What was her part in all this?
That's another piece they had trouble figuring out. Nick, he claimed he was trying to impress Jackie, get her approval.
You mentioned before they found a link between Nick, Jackie, and the guy with the t-shirt. How did that all connect?
Turns out that guy, he was one of the hitmen Nick hired for the job. They figured it out through texts and calls, traced him back to Jackie's phone. She was definitely involved, planning and coordinating the whole thing.
So we've got Nick maybe feeling inadequate, wants to impress his girlfriend. And there's Jackie, actively hiring hitmen. That's just messed up, man, all that manipulation and planning. What about the actual murder? Anything stand out to investigators?
Well, the scene itself was chaotic, remember? Shell casings everywhere, multiple weapons. That points to a lot of planning. Pretty chilling stuff.
And the interviews with Nick and Corey. What those tell us.
Man, those were intense emotionally. Really revealed a lot, too. Nick, when he apologized to his mother, that was really something. He said he was sorry, but there was, like, no emotion, almost robotic.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier Corey was incredibly strong sharing her story and all. How'd she react to that apology?
It was heartbreaking, man. She said, "In my mind, I'm supposed to be dead, so I'm a ghost, and ghosts can't speak." Just shows the trauma she went through trying to deal with this betrayal.
Powerful words. That shock, disbelief, like you're in a nightmare. And on top of that, she's trying to make sense of it all, still loving her son despite what he did.
It's a struggle most people couldn't handle. Shows how strong Corey is to even function, let alone share her story and search for answers.
The interviews brought up something else, too, pretty messed up. The sentencing for everyone involved, it caused a lot of controversy.
Oh yeah, definitely. Nick and the two hitmen, they each got 35 years.
Which, I mean, for what they did, seems kind of light, doesn't it?
It does, and that's not even the worst part. Jackie, the girlfriend who helped plan everything, she only served 120 days, then 10 years probation.
Whoa, hold on. That's a huge difference.
Uh-huh.
What was the reasoning behind that?
Jackie, she cooperated with the authorities, so that probably helped her plea deal. But for Corey, who lost her husband and now has her son in prison, that felt like a slap in the face. She wanted an explanation. From the DA's office, why the sentences were so different.
Did she ever get one?
They put out a statement, but never really addressed it directly. For Corey, it was just another layer of pain on top of everything else. Felt betrayed, not just by Nick and Jackie, but by the system, too.
Man, I can't even imagine the anger and frustration.
Absolutely. It's hard to grasp what she must have been going through, losing her husband, her son in prison, and then this from the justice system. Almost impossible to comprehend.
It makes you think, can any punishment really fit a crime like this? Corey's loss is just immense. There's no sentence, no amount of time that can fix what happened. You're right, the system, it can give out sentences, but it can't heal the wounds, bring people back. In a case like this, when it's your own kid, the emotional stuff, it's just, I don't know, even heavier. Corey's left dealing with this loss, this betrayal. It's got to cut deep.
This is where that whole idea of restorative justice comes in. It's about repairing the harm for the victims, the community, not just punishing the person who did it. It's about talking, accountability, focusing on healing and moving on. Recognizing that crime, it's not just against the state, but against people, relationships.
That sounds like a better way. More well-rounded, considers everyone's feelings. But how does that actually work? I mean, in a case like this, what would that even look like?
It could be like meetings between Corey and Nick with someone there to help, letting her ask those questions that are eating at her, tell him how she feels, the pain, the anger. And for Nick, a chance to really own up to what he did, show real remorse, try to fix things.
So it's not about letting off the hook, it's about holding him accountable, but in a way that helps the victim too. Makes you wonder, could that have helped here? Corey had so many unanswered questions, so much pain. Think restorative justice could have brought her some peace.
It's possible, yeah. It gives victims a voice, a chance to get answers from the person who hurt him. And the offender, they can see how much damage they cause, start making things right. It's not a magic solution, doesn't always mean forgiveness or anything like that, but it can be a powerful way to heal, to move forward.
And when the system seems to fail, like the punishment doesn't fit what happened. Maybe this restorative justice, he could offer some kind of resolution, some closure. It's a fascinating idea. I'd love to dig into that more, maybe in a future deep dive.
Totally agree. It's complicated, always changing, But it has a lot of potential, you know?
Yeah.
Could be a way to address those limitations of the regular justice system.
Okay, so switching gears a bit, there's this one detail about the case I find it really strange. Jackie, as part of her parole, she has to spend a night in jail every year on the anniversary of Ted's murder.
Yeah, that's a weird one. I've never seen anything like it, really. Seems like they're trying to make her face what she did, you know? Remind her of the pain, make sure she doesn't forget the consequences.
But is that really punishment? One night a year for her part in this whole horrible thing feels almost symbolic, like a gesture, not real accountability.
Yeah, it's definitely not the same as 35 years like Nick and the others got. Makes you wonder if it does anything for Corey, you know? Does it give her any sense of justice or just remind her how different their punishments are?
Tough to say. There's no easy answers here, no real sense of justice being served. Corey's loss, it's immeasurable. No punishment, no parole condition can really fix it.
You hit the nail on the head. This case shows how limited the system is, how it can't really deal with all the emotional stuff, the weight of a crime like this.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Shaughnessy murders, I'm just left feeling so sad for Corey. She's lost so much.
Yeah.
But also, I gotta say, I'm amazed by her strength, how she's kept going through all this.
She's an incredible person. Her story, it's like a reminder, you know, about how complicated people are, how bad violence can be, and how strong a mother's love is.
This case, man, it's been a roller coaster. We talked about betrayal, messed up family dynamics, problems with the justice system, even some hope with that restorative justice idea. It's going to stick with me, that's for sure.
That's what these deep dives are all about, right? Making us face the tough stuff, think about the complicated issues, and keep asking questions.
Absolutely. If you found this one thought-provoking, make sure you subscribe. We've got more deep dives coming into all sorts of fascinating and complex topics. We'll be back soon with another one, something to challenge your views and leave you wanting more. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the conversation going.